Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Hey, even you got into the voice all of a sudden. You even went, and Daniel. That was good. Good job, Daniel. You're finally learning the ways. It's better than me saying good morning. Give me that much.
All right. Cheesy banter is cheesy.
Cheesy banter is cheesy. You know, it's the kind of banter that's not yours. Nacho cheese. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm so sorry. Oh,
I need to start looking for a new podcast partner.
I felt the sigh. Like, I know somebody's going to listen to this like a month from now as a recording, and I felt that sigh that they let out.
We're not going to grow anymore, I'll tell you that much.
No, that's the hard pass. Is like, everyone who's been with us for the hundreds of episodes, right up to this point, they're like, you know what, it was a good run.
Yep. We've done 50 board game breakdowns, top 8 debates, over 50 now.
Yep.
Over 50 chits and giggles.
Yep.
That's it.
And that was the cutoff.
Yeah,
right there. It was like, Daniel pulled the nacho cheese joke, like the one that everybody knows. Like, really?
This is what happens when you're around young kids all day.
He could have been... First off, that makes me sound creepy. Secondly, I'm an elementary teacher. Thirdly... I mean, I guess I could have done like a joke like why can't a T-Rex take a selfie? Come on, why can't a T-Rex take a selfie? Audience, Illuminous, do you think you know?
No. I'm gonna give Gamehead Geek a text, see if he wants to join me on the podcast instead.
Oh, yep. This is my last episode. The answer will come shortly. Anyway, let's get into the episode.
Please. Oh, man, we were having a nice conversation before the episode, and then you went bat crazy over here.
No, I'm in the spirit of the episode, because this week
that is not in the spirit of the episode. Cringe would be the spirit of the episode.
But if cringe had a category on Board Game Geek, I would be all over those games. Like the kind of games like that you just like play a card, you're like, yeah. No, this is totally worth it. This week, our podcast theme is humor games. And believe it or not, there's a category on Board Game Geek for humor. I think it was under, not mechanisms, it was theme, right?
Category, actually.
Category. So, we wanted to talk about humor games. And I'm surprised we haven't done these already. It was pretty easy for us to pull a list.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, categories have been like some of the easiest stuff for us to pull list. When we're trying to like look for designers or artists or a publisher sometimes. I mean, look at the games we had to pull for Pendosaurus because we don't play like some of their big games.
Right. Or more specifically,
I
haven't played some of their big games. Yeah. You absolutely have.
Yeah.
But that, if anything, that's one of the publishers which you didn't, but that's one of the publishers that you could have been like on the upper echelon of like playing way more games than I have as far.
Oh yeah.
I just happen to have because I've been playing their game since Manchikoro, which is
and you've been playing like the smaller games, and it's funny because like Manchikoro is like in a big box, but it's not that big of a game.
No, it's really not.
It's just a deck of cards.
But there's very few publishers that I think like you would trounce me on. Like Simon is obviously one of them. I've played probably more Stonemaier than you have. And that's saying something, because I've played...
Yeah. Only 3 of their games on my shelf of shame. My Little Scythe, Euphoria, and Libertalia.
Yeah, and I've played Euphoria.
Yeah, well, you haven't played Pendulum.
Not yet. But what I'm saying, though, is that I don't think it's...
And have you played Between Two Castles, Mad King?
No, just Between Two Cities.
Yeah, so I played Between Two Castles.
Then I succeed, but not by much, because it's still a pretty close game.
They only have like 9 or 10 games. So.
Right, exactly. And out of those, you played Rolling Realms already, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun one.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. In fact, I have the promo packs for it. Yeah. So you got a Terra Mystica promo pack. They just released a Libertalia promo pack when Libertalia released. So I have all that.
That's good. Oh, like the 90s kids show. All that.
All right, let's get into this list before someone gets murdered in my house on screen.
Right.
I need to get one of those like Elgato things where I could just, technical difficulty screen just pops up and covers everything.
I mean, like, I don't want to give like spoilers or anything, but we were talking about shows that we've been watching recently.
Yeah.
And speaking about like people dying in your house, like, have you seen the new season of My Little Pony? I mean, it's dark now.
Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God.
Yeah, we have a whole episode.
He's on a train wreck over here.
I absolutely am. Let's keep going.
No.
Better not give me any butter, sir, because I'm on a roll right now. Viewers at home, in case you couldn't hear it, he just face palmed. That was my goal. Thank you all. I'll be here all episode.
All right, hold
Maybe,
on.
if
Give
I
me
make
one
it this
second.
far. Oh, no, okay. Well, we're going to have to edit out some technical difficulties. Don't do it. Don't do it, sir.
Just putting it in closer reach.
Just in case. Mr. Case was a really nice guy. Just in case.
All right, let's talk about the 8 games. We're talking about the category humor, as we mentioned earlier, as he's derailing this entire podcast with his dad jokes.
Isn't Derail like a rapper?
And so the number 1 seed, Dixit, will be going up against our 8 seed, Galaxy Trucker.
Yep. Our number 2 seed, Dungeon Pets, will be going up against our number 7 seed, Vikings Gone Wild.
Our number 3 seed, Sheriff of Nottingham, versus our 6 seed, Cash and Guns, specifically 2nd edition.
Mm-hmm. And our... Oh, we should clarify Dixit Odyssey, but we're
It's
lumping
Dixit.
it together with Dixit.
We do this all the time. We've mentioned this before. If an expansion for a base game is higher on the list than other things, it just puts it where that's at.
Yep. And number 4, Time's Up versus our number 5 seed, Smash Up.
So,
Battle of the Up.
yeah. So this one's interesting because our top 8 that we just talked about, there are games that we like. There are games that we've only played a couple of times, if not just one time.
Yeah.
And then there are games that both of us just don't care much for. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be an interesting topic. Board Game Geek defines humor as humor games often have themes, gameplay that provoke laughter and amusement. More specifically, humor games may require players to engage in clowning, comedy, jokes, and or satire as an objective of the game.
Which makes sense why there's a lot of party games and easier stuff, lighthearted things on here. There's a lot of games that definitely fall within that category. Some, I'm surprised, were on our list, and some that weren't, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking Terror in Meeple City is definitely like a humorous take on...
Well, it's funny because when I was trying to find humor category, I was putting games in. I don't remember which ones they were. I'm like, oh, that one's pretty funny. Let me put that in. That wasn't on the list.
Right.
Let me try this one.
I did double check that one of my honorable mentions was actually on the list. I would have had it out as my honorable mention regardless because it's one of the funniest games I have.
Okay.
But if it wasn't, I would have added that caveat. But it is, thank goodness.
All right, so yeah, I have 3 honorable mentions. You have 3 honorable mentions.
That's right.
And the people, as of right now, I have to make mention of this real quick. I have a bone to pick with Facebook.
Oh yeah, do tell us.
So
I'm in a lighthearted mood. You can pick a bone with Facebook all you want.
Normally, when we do the polls, it tells us how many votes something got or something like that, and it puts it in order. So whatever the highest vote getter is at the top. No, they decided to change it up from like the last time we put up a poll was 2 weeks ago, and now it's percentage points. Yep. Which is fine.
And there might be settings to change it, but as of right now, we have not found them.
Found them, yeah. And so it's frustrating because now I have to like, oh, okay, well, this got eliminated. I have to go look for it instead of starting from the bottom up and be like, okay, here's the votes.
Right.
No, because it's still in the specific order I put them in.
It'll still tell us the total votes.
Yeah, it tells us the total votes
if we really want. So like, one of these has 3% votes out of 26, so it's obviously just one.
Yeah,
but still,
at least put the higher percentage one on the top, like you used to.
Put it in order.
Yeah,
exactly.
Instead of me having to go, okay, so that's at 15, that's at 7. Okay, there's our highest. That kind of thing. It's just like, oh, okay, that's just driving me insane.
Yeah, well, we'll see how well we...
I am shocked about one thing, though. I'm just looking at this poll right now, how high one of our games is, voted-wise. I didn't think it was that popular, because when we put it on the list before, it never got as many votes. So, we'll see.
That's true. We are... I'm curious about that as well, because that is something that we're going to have to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. All right.
All right, so let's start with the people's honorable mention. They have 2, so let's start with this one.
I do like the fact that you can just scroll to the bottom of the list and then it's there.
Yeah,
you know?
That's helpful.
Yeah, so Jim added, not the Jim on our podcast, but a different Jim, added Gloom. That is the clear, transparent cards where you're trying to make...
everybody miserable.
Everybody miserable and then kill off your family. And
this game works because it makes me miserable.
Yeah, it's, I mean...
I get
like
why people some like it.
Yeah.
I which is weird because I really, really do like dark humor.
Right.
I enjoy dark humor a lot. This one just did
it's just not
hit.
that good of a game.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, but the game was fine for what it is. It was just a simple little take-that game. It had some dark humor. I get the appeal of it. I understand it. I don't have a bad time playing it.
I just think
I don't see myself wanting to play it.
Yeah, and I think the popularity of this one is the what we call the tabletop effect.
Right.
Because it was played on tabletop, it got really popular.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think it would. Yeah. I don't think it would.
Every bit of success.
I don't think it would be as popular if it wasn't for tabletop. Right. And you could say that for a lot of games.
Right. Exactly. Now, speaking of questionable humor, though, I mean, I appreciate the dark. This next game I have never wanted to really...
Yeah, I have trouble just trying to say this name over here just because I'm a history major, or was at one point when I was in college. This one's tough for me, and this was added by Sava, and it's Secret Hitler.
Yeah, and I get the appeal.
Yeah.
When I was talking to my friend who we were talking about before the podcast.
Yeah.
We were talking about humor games, and I was like, oh yeah, sure enough, Secret Hitler is the top ranked on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
No, neither you nor I have played it. But, I mean, even my friend knew about it. He's not an avid gamer. He was like, yeah, it's just another one of those games like Werewolf or Mafia. It's just the same thing. You know, I was like, yep, that's pretty much all it is, I'm sure,
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's slightly different, but it doesn't necessarily need to be.
Yeah, and... it's fine. People who enjoy it. I'm not trying to yuck on anybody's yum, but this one is it's really, really hard for me to get because of the historical context of the person behind it.
I can appreciate this. Illuminous, one of our good viewers, said Secret Palpatine is the best version.
Palpatine.
So he's not that old. He's less than 19. He's a Palpatine. Oh, that would be on brand if you had me with a lightsaber right now.
Yeah, and it's a red lightsaber.
From Star Trek, right? Oh, I should be wearing a red shirt right now.
It'll be red soon.
I don't think I'm going to make it through this episode. Not at this pace. Oh, I'm so deceased, man. All
right, let's go into our honorable mentions.
I'm being a little feces-ish. I apologize. I mean facetious. Sorry, I said that wrong. My apologies. Let's go into
this pen is normally blue. Let's see what it turns here in a minute. It's got color changing ink.
Inkwells they don't do well in the bloodstream. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Let's see who talks about our honorable mentions first. Now be you.
Okay, so my first honorable mention is it's not a great game. But I have so much fun with it. I enjoy playing it a lot. And it's a version of a game that gets talked about a lot. Or not a lot, but it had a popularity too. And this is Flux. Okay. But the one specifically I'm talking about is Monty Python Flux. I saw this on this list, and it's where it's talking about like getting into character and humor in the definition. This is the one that, this is the one that got me because I love Monty Python stuff. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
One of the oldest versions of Flux, too.
Yeah, it is, and I actually have a copy of it, and we just recently played it earlier this year and had a blast with it.
Right. It's
so fun, especially since now that my buddy has finally saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail, he actually gets a lot of the references because a lot of those cards they do talk about like other Monty Python movies, but the Holy Grail is like the main one that's talked about a lot in this card game, and I really, really enjoy this one. The humor does come out. There's a part where you have to sing a song. And my wife sings this specific song every single time. And I don't want to mention what song, but you probably know where it is, where it's talking about God gets sad and stuff like that.
Right. Oh, I know.
So
Something about being sacred.
yeah.
Yep.
And so it cracks me up every time we play it. We don't play it a lot. We played the mess out of it when we first started getting into gaming. This was back in 2014 or so. And so it's not like my favorite game. It didn't even make it into the top 100, not even the top 150 or something like that. But it's still up there. I really enjoy it a lot, and I have a great time with this version. I like this version more than many of the other Fluxes.
Right. Exactly. No, that's a really good pick. If I thought of Flux, I probably would have put it on, but I didn't. So that's my number 4. My number 3, and now for something completely different. See what I did there? My number 3 is a game by Paul Peterson. It's a small little card game that was printed by Wizards of the Coast. It is also a pretty demented theme. It's about beheading people.
And that did get on your list.
Guillotine. Yeah, Guillotine is so good. This predates when I got into gaming.
Yeah.
I remember I used to play Magic the Gathering back in the day.
Yeah, I get why people don't like Flux. It's
Right.
understandable. I just have I enjoyed Monty Python Flux a lot.
This is in reply to our friend If3 says it's best not to think of Flux. You made the right move. LOL. Yeah, and then Flux is not for me from Illuminous. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I had fun when I played it. And Andy Looney, he is a riot. He is absolutely awesome. And his wife, Kristen Looney, they are both just some of the best people in gaming. Like, as far as publishers go, if you get a chance to talk with them, they're worth talking to and just chatting with. They're friendly, amazing, great people, which you know firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shame you didn't get to meet Andy, but yeah, he's
That's
hilarious.
okay. I fell in front of the wife, so that's all good.
That's fine. Yeah. Speaking of humor, no. So mine,
Guillotine.
Guillotine. Yes, I had to think about that. I was thinking about how funny it was you falling. Guillotine is just it's an absolute riot. You deal out a bunch of cards. I think 12 cards. They're all walking towards this guillotine. You all take turns beheading characters, and all you're just trying to do is really get the most points by moving people in line. Have you ever played this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Played at the shop. It has like this random guillotine piece that just doesn't really do anything. Just sits there.
It's just a mark to which end is the end of the line.
You can
which
just
is functional.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, you could just use the box.
Yeah.
It has a picture of a guillotine on the box.
Right. Exactly. But it includes a stand-up guillotine. Like it's worth it. I like Guillotine a lot. I think it's really fun. It's just silly, you know, as long as you don't take it seriously, because I know these are actual events that happened. And, And, you know, who was it? Marie Antoinette? Is that who it's?
That's the more famous one.
Yeah. Well, she's, of course, a character in there, and she has a lot of points. And King and Queen, if you get sets of King and Queens being beheaded, you get extra bonus points. And then there's, like, some where it's like everybody loves them, so it's like you don't want to behead them, so with negative points. Like, and there's other ones where it's like you actually could behead a clown, and then you actually put them in front of somebody else, and they're with negative points because I think their head bounced over there. Like it's so dumb. It's so hilarious. It's not that bad of a game. It's fine for just being a light, simple, like let's just play Guillotine and have fun.
Yeah,
it works perfectly for that setting, and it's always a blast whenever I bring it out.
What's interesting is the guy who invented the guillotine got the guillotine.
Now that's an interesting morsel of info right there. That's really good. So that's my number 3, Guillotine. All right.
Coin of Doom.
Let's Coin of Doom this. I'll start us off. My number 2 is a game that I had just recently played, probably about 6 months ago, for the very first time. And I bought it out of mistake. Because I thought it was from a different designer, because they shared a similar name. I was like, okay, let's try it, I guess. And it turns out it's a one-player only game. It's effectively a notebook version of a point-and-click adventure. This is called Cantaloupe.
Oh, yeah, I did see that on the list.
Break into Prison.
Yep.
And, oh my goodness, this has some of the funniest humor in there. Like, nothing is taken seriously at all. But just about anything you could do in that game, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, it probably will let you do it. So I'm going to give a couple of slight spoilers to it, because there's a whole storyline with it, right?
Okay.
There are achievements that you can unlock, which do not affect the game whatsoever. They're not counted for points. They're not doing anything special. It's just simply, at the end of the game, you have succeeded in getting certain achievements. and one might be like the genius achievement, right?
Okay.
And it says on the card, "Congratulations, you have gotten this for doing something either really smart or incredibly stupid." And and almost every single time I did it was because it was incredibly stupid. And it's rare that you play a solo game and you actually laugh out loud, like by yourself. It's like playing like a video game and going, "Ha, okay, that's good." This is genuinely brought up multiple times, like where, and you could get penalized in parts of the game, and there's even a part on certain areas where you can look, and it will say, "Hey, nobody ever told you to look here. You're cheating. Like, you're penalized now." Like it's like that kind of thing. But they play it off really funny. It's a funny story. It works really well. It was super engaging. Cantaloupe, that's my number 2 honorable mention. One of the funniest games I've ever played.
All right, so going into my number 2. Now, there is humor in this game. It's not a lot of humor. Actually, some of the art is really humorous in this game. But it's not my favorite of all the humor games, but it's a really good Phil Walker Harding game. And this is Gingerbread House.
Yeah.
Now,
is on there.
Like I said, there is some humor in it, and it's mostly the artwork.
There's more humor in this than some of the games that we're going to be debating
Yeah.
Yes.
I think a lot of the games that we're going to be debating, the humor is based on how the players interact with the game, more so than the actual humor to the game.
Yeah.
And Gingerbread House has some humor, and it's mainly, again, in the artwork, from, like, seeing Pinocchio behind bars or imprisoning the big bad wolf and stuff like that. So using their abilities, and so it has its good thing. It's cutesy, it's fun. I love the being able to pull a tile, put it down, get rewards for certain type of cookies and stuff like that. Because we're basically building like sweet houses, like the Wicked Witches the witch that was going after Hansel and Gretel and stuff like that. So it has its humor in fairy tale lore, but I just put it on the list because I'm like, hey, look, a Phil Walker Harding I could put on this list.
Right, exactly.
And I do, I do enjoy it. I think it's a good game. And like I said, there is some humor. I just also wanted to talk about it because it's just like, why is this on this list? And then I looked at our top 8, and it's like, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. One more flip.
Yeah, Illuminate sounds like Trogdor, and that was unfortunately not on neither of our lists because I have yet to play it, even though I'm very familiar with the source material of Homestar Runner. And my last honorable mention, this was one of those games where it actually made me sad the other day because our friend was in town, and the same friend that I've been talking about for a few times, and he's in town, and my wife explicitly requested to play this game, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find my copy of it anywhere.
Oh, wow.
And otherwise, I absolutely would have picked this game out and played it. But it worked out because we ended up playing a game off of my Shelf of Shame.
Okay.
That was also really good. But this one, it's so fun. And it's overproduced by Repos, but it could just be on pieces of paper. The idea is that you have a stage, and you're putting on a show. And you're trying to draw a picture to let people guess it. You know, standard like, oh, I draw a picture, first one to guess it gets the points, right?
Upside down?
No. Except the catch is you only draw one half of the picture. This is Tadam.
Okay.
By Freedom and Freeze.
There's your first problem.
Well, no, this game is amazing because when you are actually playing it, you have these really nice, like, folding dry erase boards where you can see where the lines end.
I wonder if you accidentally sold it in one of our...
No, I would not have even touched that game.
Really? Because you don't know where it is.
I don't know where it is, but that's because I have piles and piles of games in my room right now that need to be cleaned. But no, Tadam, I doubt I ever would have. Like, it has something as simple as, like, you and your partner to your right have to agree on one. And so, me and my friend Jim, our mutual friend Jim, we always sit next to each other because it's just the absurdity. Because him and I, neither of us are amazing artists, but we do appreciate a good challenge. So, like, we might draw, like, say, Pikachu, for example. and I would draw the whole body of Pikachu on one half, and he would draw just the face, and it would be connected in this terrible nightmare fuel of an image that was amazing. But one of our best ones that we've ever done, and this was amazing that he did this, was the goal was to draw a one-armed man. Think about how you draw half of a one-armed man. Exactly. It's strewn in with all of these really ridiculous things, like just absurd, over the top. Like, you could play easy. You're like, oh, a house, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But like a one-armed man, he actually came up with a really creative idea for it. Is that he drew with a guy behind with his arm behind his back, and you couldn't tell if it was cut off or not. But then, down laying on the ground was a severed arm. And so it didn't matter if mine was cut off or if I ended up drawing him with the arm, because therefore that would have been implied regardless. That is such a weird puzzle to solve when you can only see half of the image. Oh my gosh. I mean, just thinking about it, it's bringing smiles. And I think this is one of the funnest, like, party games. It's definitely my favorite drawing game, hands down.
Okay.
It's so good. It has no right being that fun. Like, even like a sunset. Drawing a sunset is difficult when you're drawing half of the sunset. It's amazing. And then when you get those times when two players are just so in sync and you open it up and it looks like they actually drew it together, like, that's another level of like, wow, good job. You know, you just gotta applaud them, and then you just love every second of it. It's one of the best. That is Tadam. Terrible name. It
almost sounds like ta-da.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think it's in German. Tadam.
Alrighty, so my number one game is, you mentioned it. It shouldn't be as good as it. It doesn't have a right to be as fun as it is.
Right.
And this one is a game right game, and it's about pushing your luck. It's stealing garbage. Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas. Yeah, I thought about this one.
I don't know why I like this game so much. I mean, it doesn't do anything new. It doesn't do anything spectacular, but it's just, it's fun. You're trying to take cards. You're supposed to have the most points. You're trying to get, like, what is it, bananas or something? Or nanners is what it's called in the games.
Nanners, pie,
yeah.
fish.
But then you got to worry about one of your opponents playing the dog because it's barking at you. And so it just, and you're pushing your luck. You're rolling a die, see what comes up. And it's so fun. It shouldn't be as fun as it is, but it's a great game. And when I saw this as I was just going through our list, I'm like, yep, nope, that's in there. And that's going to be my number one.
Yep.
Hands down. It's a fantastic game. Game Right Games does a heck of a job. It's very family friendly. And it's just, God, every time I play this game, it's just induces giggles.
It does.
Around the table. I'm going to take that nanner from you now. No, you're not. Woof, woof, woof.
Yeah. No, my doggo. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I have a great time with this game. But let's get into our list, though. Yeah. But yeah, my number one.
Quick, like, shout outs to games that I've thought about on my list. As you can see, Nuclear War.
I'm surprised that wasn't on your list.
I considered it. It's not as funny as it could be.
I don't know.
There are some great shenanigans that happen. There's a reason it's on the list for sure. Spyfall is another one of those. I also wanted to put Worderific, which is the hilarious word game that I played. That doesn't, honestly, it looks terrible, but it's way better than it should be. Either way. Yeah, thank you for doing that. So we just had a spammer.
Yeah, had to take care of that. But yeah, no. Nuclear War I did enjoy. Huh?
Oh, yeah. I thought you were about to transition to that. But Nuclear War, yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It did have a humorous part because I eliminated someone before we even started the game.
Right. It's like, you gotta love it when, like, somebody gets eliminated before the first turn of anybody. I mean, like, that's totally broken in games.
Because literally we were still doing basically the setup, and he got beat up a lot, and then I had to launch my nuke, and it ended up going to him, and it took off the last of his population. Yeah, it was
he did not like it one bit, but for the rest of the table, I was like, wow, that was awkward, but pretty darn funny. Speaking of stuff like that, my friend who came over, he was talking to my son. He was like, hey, how you doing, buddy? He was like, oh, my son was like, good. He was like, so, how old are you now, like 13? He was like, no, I'm 12. And he was like, great, cool. When are you turning 13? He just replies, on my birthday. Like that's the humor that I think nuclear war kind of elicits. It's like, okay, it's just like, it's so blatant, obvious, in your face. It's like, of course that's the game that you would lose immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, I digress. We also, one more, Illuminous did bring up a couple of humor games, so we should bring that up as well as an honorable mention.
Okay.
From our fan vote. Go up a little bit more. There we go. Trial by Trolleys, which sounds pretty fun. It's by the same guys who made Drinking Hazard.
Well, Trial by Trolleys is like the way they made it into a card game, but it's already a game that was out. It was like people were like, would you rather do this or do this?
Kind of a would you rather.
Yeah.
And then it's Muffin Times.
I don't know anything about that one.
That one I didn't know about, but that's okay.
And there was another one.
Yeah. So ith3, if you're still with us, feel free to post some of your favorite humor games.
Yeah, but with that being said, let's get into this list because this is going to be fun.
Yeah, it will. As you would expect with humor games, of course. So what we're going to be talking about is the top 8 highest ranked games on BoardGameGeek.com. We picked the 8 that you and I have both played that is the highest one, which, currently right now Secret Hitler is
number
ranked
1
higher than in this category, but neither of us have played it, so it wouldn't be fair for us to argue with that. Ith3 brought up some good ones. Snake Oil, absolutely. And Fun Employed, I have not played yet.
No.
But we'll have to play it next time I visit. So we break these into 5 categories to try and take our bias out of it. Now, I think a lot of this is going to be memorable moments for us because that's really where the humor comes from.
Oh, yeah.
But first off, ease of play, simplicity, familiarity of the mechanisms. How easy is this to play? Is this something that people are familiar with mostly? There's also likelihood to get to the table based on either the theme or the mechanisms. And finally, if you're prone to analysis paralysis, which is normally a detractor. If you're sitting there working out like million turns in advance, like and taking everybody's time, it shouldn't happen in a humor game, and it probably won't.
There's a couple that it could happen to.
Sure.
But they're in the same bracket.
Right, exactly. Of course, right? So, yeah, exactly.
All right, the next one we have here is replay value, the length of time and scaling well. Does it play really well with 3 players? Does it play really well with 1 player? Does it play really well with 8 players? And does it not take as much longer? Because there was a game just recently our buddy was going to bring over, and he's like, oh no, and they said it's about an hour per person, so our whole game night would have been 4 hours, and that was if we already knew the game, which we didn't.
Right, which we did not.
Yes, so that's important. Minimum number of plays to get the full experience. Something like chess, you know how to play it, and it's going to be pretty much the same game over and over again because you know how everything moves. The knight's always going to move the same way. The queen's always going to move the same way. Yeah. Whereas if you got something in the campaign, how many games do you have to play to get the full experiences? Or games like Arc Nova, where it has a ton of cards that you're not going to all see in one game. As well as expandability. This is already existing expansions, up to 1 possible future expansions, or confirmed by the designer or publisher that there is more expansions coming out.
Very good. Our next category is meaningful choice, which is tricky in humor, but we'll do our best to talk about them. First off, how well can you impact other players' strategies? That's a really important thing. Impact on long-term strategy, your personal long-term strategy. Mm-hmm. And finally, arbitrary choices. Can you just... I'm going to actually give a humor example of this, is that when I used to play Cards Against Humanity with my friends, after a while I noticed that it didn't matter what you put, as long as people pick the raunchiest thing. So, you know how like some people play with rando, as they call it, where they put in a random card? And then the random player might win. Mm-hmm. That's how I would play. Yeah. And I would normally do really better than if I was trying. Yeah. Which made no sense. So that I feel is a detractor from it.
And so our chat here is just adding more stuff that, let's see here, we got Gloom, which was added by the people, as well as Ith3 was stating, most social storytelling games, honestly, Sheep Match, Dark Overlord, Fake Artist Goes to New York.
Yep, and then Illuminous also brought up, Unless You're Playing That Time You Killed Me, which is a very humorous game, actually. The premise is hilarious.
All right, and going on to our next criteria, it is game immersion. Does the game fit the category best or theme match the mechanism? In this case, which games brings the humor better? Player interaction, i.e. table talk. This is going to be more subjective because a lot of these games lend themselves to humorous moments, and you may mention the big one, memorable moments. A lot of these games have great memorable moments to them, so this is going to be one of the tougher ones for us to argue.
Right, exactly. And finally, the last category is art and production. Obviously, the art is one of the categories from that. Graphic design, how usability is the graphic design choices that are made in the game. And finally, pieces and components. Are you playing with just generic thin cards? Do they need to be better quality, or are they already like beyond over the top, like 300 miniatures?
Yeah, and I got to make mention of that when it comes to the art and production, because Sheriff of Nottingham is on our list. We're actually mainly talking about the Arcane Wonders one, because that's the one we both played. That's actually the one that's highest up on the list. So I'm not sure what the CMON.
I haven't played with the CMON version.
Yeah, so I don't know compared to the components for that. And finally, if we cannot come to a consensus, that's why it's important that you join us on the Board Game Revolution every time we post a poll and vote for your favorite, because the highest vote getter moves on, and the one that doesn't have as many votes is cut.
Yeah, and I feel like this first initial category, we should definitely talk about which one is the most humorous of those.
Oh, yeah,
and eliminate it based on funny value instead of break down the criteria, because some of these are legitimate strategy games that just shouldn't, in my opinion, I don't
honestly, one of them it's a legitimate strategy game, but mainly the humor is in the rule book.
Right, exactly. And to answer your question, Luminous, I believe that they add another player, like you could play up to 6 players in the second edition, as well as, of course, the art and some component changes.
I think the CMON edition is the 3rd edition.
Probably.
Because I think Arcane Wonders brought over, is the 2nd edition.
The original one was called Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, let's get into that. The way we do this is that Daniel will bring out the Cup of Doom.
I found it.
Newly found. And I have the Coin of Doom right here. If it lands on tails, Daniel will lead the debate. If it lands on heads, I will lead the debate. And we will argue for each of our different sides and try and make the good points for it. Make it a reasonable argument as best as we can. I will be starting off this debate, Daniel. This is between Dixit, Odyssey specifically, and Galaxy Trucker. Alright, I'll be arguing for Galaxy Trucker. That's probably for the best. Because CGE is known for their humor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that they made Galaxy Trucker. They also made another game that we're going to be arguing on the next round for Dungeon Pets.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, they're known for their humor. And really the premise of this game is pretty hilarious. Basically, you're taking a bunch of junk space parts, chunking them together as best as you can, all against time with these hazards that are going to hit you eventually.
Yeah, and you kind of know some that are coming up.
Right. You kind of know some of them, but you got to look at them throughout the time, and you're trying
depending on certain moves that you do.
Right, depending on certain moves, and you're trying to create a ship that can withstand this, but then actually end up getting pummeled and destroyed in all sorts of different ways. There's times where you can change goods. There are times where you can use like aliens and stuff to benefit you. Your workers that are on it, batteries to fire.
You have to make sure everything's connected properly.
Yep, everything's connected properly. And I mean, the whole premise of it is pretty hilarious. I mean, that is what drew me into playing the game, is because I absolutely love that premise. I'm going to address the elephant in the room between both of us, though. Because you and I, we were both very excited to play this. We played it, and we both thought it was miserable. Yeah,
it is disappointing. Now, I love the first half of the game when you're trying to build and get that puzzle.
Speed building is fine.
Yeah, that second part of the game where just everything blows up.
Where all the humor is supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's more frustration than anything.
Yeah, it wasn't even funny. Like, it was just like, oh, okay. It makes the game terribly unbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the fundamental problem of it. However, between the two, I'm not sure which one should go on. I will say, though, out of all of the Spiel des Jahres winners, which Dixit is probably one of the very few that I do not like at all.
But see, the thing is, I like Dixit. But for me, it's fine. It does lead to a lot of humor. It won a Spiel des Jahres for a reason. People really do enjoy this game. And they've made a series of games based off of this. Mysterium as well as Obscurio.
Yeah.
Or Mysterium
Muse.
Park, I think, is the smaller version of Mysterium.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got support. Dixit Odyssey, a standalone expansion. How many expansions does Dixit have? And it's mainly just artwork.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the prettiest games. I think it wins art and production hands down just because of the art on the cards. Excuse me. I think it's a fine game. I like this more, and I'm not taking my bias out of this because I like Dixit more than I like Galaxy Trucker.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. I understand why some people like Galaxy Trucker. The randomness is fine at points in games, but the fact of this, it for me, it felt like I'm doing all this great, and I think I did a good job, and then something else comes up that just completely blows up my ship, and then I lose my crew, and then I can't get any points, and I had no way.
Somebody else builds a clearly inferior ship, but it doesn't affect them because that random. Yeah,
it's so just frustrating more than fun, and then the whole thing about it is the humor. I don't get the humor out of that second half of the game. I get fun with speed building and stuff like that. That's fun.
There's too much involved with it. There really is. Like finding a way to deal with the hazards and going, okay, well, I'm going to use a battery here to destroy this thing because I want to trade with this. That it's trying to add way too much of a game into what shouldn't be there.
And the thing about it with Dixit, if you play with the right group, you could have the best time laughing across the table, joking around because everybody picked that one card. And it's just like, no, I wanted the points but you shouldn't have put such a good card with that clue.
Right.
So
that's true.
I personally think Dixit should move on based on our criteria. It's easier to play than Galaxy Trucker. It's got better art and production, even with the newest release.
And it's more immersive.
It's more immersive. I have a great time with it. And the replay value alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think Dixit should move on. To answer with the Luminous, yes, I prefer Mysterium over Dixit as well.
I prefer Mysterium over the other two.
Yeah.
And I would play Obscurio over Dixit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that is our first round. Very easy, pretty much we agreed on. Dixit moves on. Our next category is Dungeon Pets versus Vikings Gone Wild. That's going to be an odd one.
Yeah, in fact, I had to read up on Vikings Gone Wild because I barely remembered it.
Yep.
Once I read it, I'm like, oh, I get it now. And I'm starting it, and I get Vikings Gone Wild, so it's a good thing I read up on it.
Absolutely.
So, out of the two, and I will say this flat out of the two, the one I had more fun with is Vikings Gone Wild. I actually really enjoyed the humor in that one. You're basically just a bunch of Vikings trying to fight the other Vikings to get points as you're going through the game. It's got some deck building, resource management. It's got all the goods of it. And for me, the Dungeon Pets, when we were mentioning it earlier, is that the humor of the game is mainly in the rule book. There's that little bit of piece about, I don't know where that animal went, but you can feed all these other animals now. That's the only humor really in the game. The rest of the time, it's very strategic about what you're doing,
right?
Where you're putting your pieces, what you're doing. It's a worker placement game, and I love worker placement games. Right. But Vikings Gone Wild gives me that humor. It gives me that fun. I'm deck building. I want to punch you in the face because I want to steal your beer over there, and so it has all those shenanigans. I think it's an easier game to play because it's deck building, whereas the worker placement, but it's what is it? Is it Suchi or Travadal? It's Vadal Travadal, right? It's a worker placement game that has a lot going on with it. So the deck building part of Vikings Gone Wild is so much easier. I'm not sure about the replay value of it, but I will say Dungeon Pets has more meaningful choice. Mm-hmm. But the game immersion, when we're talking about like which is the more humorous, I think Vikings Gone Wild wins that one.
Okay. So my argument is for Dungeon Pets, which, I mean, you brought up the fact that the humor is in the rulebook, and that's really like the prime thing. I mean, that it's one of those things where I've heard other podcasts say this. It's just if that's something so obvious, right, and it makes that big of a joke about it, then that's what makes it memorable, and that's a sign of a really good rule book, right? Yeah. And that's one thing that I've always remembered about that rule book. It's like, yeah, when you have to get rid of one of your pets, like just coincidentally, don't mind where they go. but now meat is now more
Available, yeah.
Which is hilarious. That's one of the funniest things. And you're never going to forget that rule book because of that joke alone.
Yeah, no, it's a well-written rule book, but when it's that one joke is the only thing you're getting the humor-wise.
Well, I feel like it benefits the game as well, because we are also forgetting that the pets themselves are pretty hilarious looking. Like, they're demented looking, but they're pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, they took hideous creatures and made them somewhat adorable. That's pretty good. There's a lot of little humor on the board itself. The graphics on there have humor. You have to clean up their poop and send minions to go clean up the poop.
It's little brown cubes.
Yeah, little brown cubes. Like, so there's a lot of humor in the game.
I don't know.
However,
if my wife was in here, she would say poop jokes is not humor.
Oh, I beg to differ. I beg to differ hugely on that. Poop jokes are hilarious.
I don't disagree with you on that point.
What kind of person has to be so upset with themselves where they can't laugh at a poop joke? Like, those are hilarious. Fart jokes are even better. But regardless of the fact, I don't disagree with you, though. I do agree. Other than meaningful choice, I think Vikings Gone Wild more or less has all of the other things except for game immersion. I don't think it has game immersion.
Oh, no, I agree with
that
you.
Rule book is the most memorable moment, and that's in a rule book. Yeah, and it's brought up a good point. How many times do you see poop as a component? I've seen Wombat Rescue. That's one of them.
There is that
Poop the card game.
What is it? The
awful game, honestly.
That Roman game where it's like the Roman toilets.
Oh yeah. Caca alarm, whatever the new.
No, that Hasbro one.
Yeah, when it shoots up from the toilet, and you can't catch it. That's hilarious. But yeah, there's not nearly as many poop cubes as a component. Not nearly enough, honestly. Let's be real.
All right, so which one is moving on?
I think Vikings Gone Wild moves on.
All right.
Which brings us to our next category. It's number 3, Sheriff of Nottingham versus number 6, Cash and Guns. And this is a toughie.
This is a toughie.
This is a very, very tough one. And you'll be starting us off for this debate. And Illuminous also brought up, apparently Vikings Gone Wild is based off of the mobile game. I did not know that there was a mobile game.
It is, yeah.
Which is a copycat of Clash of Clans. Okay.
All right, so I'm leading this one.
Yep.
Cash and Guns.
Cash and Guns.
Alrighty, so let's get the elephant out of the room. Cash and Guns is straight up arbitrary choices. It can be. There is a point, because you have how many clicks and misses? It's like 2 booms and
you
the rest
have
are
3 bangs and 5 clicks.
There are times where you can be like, I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? Let's find out. If you're pointing at someone.
Are you willing to take that chance?
Other than that, that's my only disagreement with Cash and Guns. However, the shenanigans in this game, the things that you can do, you're pointing foam guns at each other, and you have like special abilities based on the character that you're playing as. This was our go-to party game for like big parties for the longest time. And now, yes, I get it. There's people who have issues with pointing guns at each other, even though they're foam guns with orange tips. So it's proof they're not real. But it's just, there's just so much shenanigans, because all you got to do, everybody sees what the loot's out there. Then everybody's like, point your gun. You point your gun at one person. If, you choose, of course, you choose your choice whether you're going to play a click or you play a bang. Sometimes you can play a blind just to do the whole, do you feel lucky punk kind of situation. And it's funny because sometimes you'll just see it like everybody points at the one person. He's like, what did I do? And it's so much fun. It has some of the most memorable moments out of all the games on this list. I really, really enjoy it. It's one of the easiest games on this list to play, because all it is pick one of your 8 cards and point your gun at someone, and then decide if you're going to stay in or stay out, or fall out and be like, nope, I am not getting shot because you only have so many wounds. I dig this game. I enjoy this game. It is one of my favorite party games. Go ahead.
All right. You're right. I mean, that is a great game. it just hurts me that it's going right up against
Sheriff of Nottingham. Yeah,
which is probably, in my opinion, probably the second funniest game on our that we're debating today, in my opinion, and that's because Sheriff of Nottingham. It's very simple. Up to 5 players in the edition that we normally play. Everyone is going to be the sheriff twice. All you're trying to do is bring cards into your realm, bring them into town, so that way you can sell them for points at the end of the game. You all start with coin that you can actively bribe other players with. You have the bag that has the nice audible clack as you snap it shut. You hand the purse to the player who's supposed to be inspecting it, and they have the choice. They pick up a single one, and they get to ask the people questions and talk to them about it. You can make it becomes common where you're like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna give you 5 coins. I don't want to penalize. I don't want you to be penalized, but honestly, this is gonna save us a lot of time. Let's just send it on my way. And then one person's like, well, I have 3 apples, but, it's like, I'm going to stand my ground. Go ahead and open it, because then you're going to have to pay me more, and start psyching out the people. And then another player will jump in and say, you know what? No, I'll pay you 5 coins to look in their bag.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of my deal, I think they're lying to you, and I don't think you should have to deal with it. And then you have one person who's just stoic and quiet, There's legitimate strategy in the game itself, like more than most people give it credit for.
No, I agree. Yeah, no.
You can play the room. You don't have to bring in illegal contraband in order to win.
Yeah, you still could
play
win
very fairly and just go, yeah, I'm just bringing in fair stuff, but you might get some more points.
Illuminous makes my point for me when he says sheriff is hit or miss, because it's 2-player reliant. You have to have the perfect group to play Sheriff of Nottingham. I've played a couple games of Sheriff of Nottingham where I did not enjoy myself playing with the people. I'll tell you one of the people. Well, actually, at the shop.
Okay. But that's.
But the thing is, Cash and Guns. I've had a massive amount of fun playing with people at a convention, people I don't know.
Well, sure, yeah.
Where more so than playing Sheriff of Nottingham. And I agree with what Illuminous was saying. It's very player reliant. Now, I agree with you. There's a lot of strategy in this. I've seen someone win by playing the fair route. Don't put any contrabands and be like, okay, this is 3 cheese in here. And he still would get inspected and have to get paid for it, and ended up winning because he played fairly.
Right.
And it's cool when stuff like that happens, but Cash and Guns is just sheer shenanigans.
Okay. I mean, I think it's fair enough where right now we can break it down.
Okay. Yeah.
First off, ease of play, Cash and Guns.
Cash and Guns, easily.
Okay. Art and production.
I don't know. This one's tough for me.
Probably Cash and Guns. I really like John Kovalick's art.
Yeah, no, I was gonna agree with you on that, and then the foam piece or the guns and stuff like that. And then if you got like
you have the different
guns, you have the little gun and then the Uzi.
One with the clip on it. It's like that. It's just a foam block that you just attach. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Game immersion. Yeah. Okay. I'll give it that, and it is replay value.
Yeah.
Cash and Guns as well. All right, Cash and Guns moves on.
Like I said, the main one I think Sheriff of Nottingham wins is meaningful choice.
Yes, I agree with that. And our final category is going to be Time's Up versus Smash Up. Battle of the
Ups.
All
right, let's just
2 very different games.
This over here.
Even though they have the same word in the title, very different games.
I know which one you want moving on.
Yes, 100%. I already know which one should move on. But I'll make an argument for either one. Hopefully I just won't get that one. You'll be starting us off?
I get Smash Up, so you get the safe pick.
Goodness. And you act like I hate Smash Up. I don't hate Smash Up.
You dislike Smash Up.
I just don't have fun playing it.
Well, see, I have a blast playing it. So I will say this. It is not going to win replay value just because, well, it'll probably win because of expansions, but it's not going to win because of the scaling length of time scaling well. It's not great at 2. It's too long at 4.
Yes.
The sweet spot's 3 players.
Okay.
Honestly, if I'm going to recommend Smash Up to be played with anybody, it's 3 players. That's it. Play 3 players. The turns are a little quicker, things go faster. Illumina says Smash Up Base is not so great. I really enjoy Smash Up Base. I do have almost everything for Smash Up, personally. There is a lot of expansions. Now they're adding Marvel. Now they're adding Disney to it.
Right.
They're just coming out with a 10-year anniversary edition. Is going to have some new stuff. They have like mini packs where you get the sheep. They gave us a fifth expansion or a fifth set in another expansion where you can mash up sharks and tornadoes to have Sharknadoes,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, so they have their humor in there, and the basic point of the game is you're getting two decks. I get sharks and I get tornadoes, mash them up, I get Sharknadoes. Or I can have pirate ghosts. Or I could have wizard superheroes. Or most recently, I could have Marvel character with zombies and stuff like that. So they even have a geek deck, which is a bit overpowered in my opinion. But they have a lot of humor in it too. The only issue with this game is you got to be careful what two groups you're mashing up. So ghosts, you want to shed your hand like there is no tomorrow because they get stronger, more stuff is in their graveyard. Whereas wizards, it's about having all the cards you can in your hand. So it has its shenanigans. I love playing this game, but again, it's a 3-player game for me, and I don't play it as often because not a lot of people like it. Gamehead Geek is one of the few people I'll play it with, and like my wife doesn't like it because it's just too random for her, and you're beholden to like the how the cards. So if you shuffled, it doesn't shuffle well, and you get nothing in your hand, or some stuff are just not that great, or you get your really powerful cards in the beginning of the game. Yeah, you can start rolling at the beginning of the game, but at the end of the game, you're not getting stuff that you need out.
Right.
Yeah, it can lead to a lot of stuff. Now, it wins replay value hands down, even though Time's Up has a lot of expansions.
Yeah, not a small amount of expansions, but minimum number of plays.
To get the full experience.
A lot more than... I mean, they're both variable.
Yeah.
And length of time, I think that's really where it boils down to. It scales way better.
Yeah, Time's Up scales way better. There are points like the first round is the one that takes the longest in Time's Up. The art and production, well, that for me personally is going to go to Smash Up.
Yeah.
Because there's not really much to Time's Up. It's just letters.
Sure. Yeah.
But Smash Up, I honestly don't think it's moving on.
Yeah, my vote is obviously for Time's Up because I have to argue for it. But I mean, really, Time's Up, it's made for this category. This is one of the funniest games you can ever play. I have yet to have a playthrough of this go over badly.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Out of years of playing this game.
I will say this about Time's Up. If you're playing with a younger audience who is not familiar with some of the older stuff in that game,
yeah,
you might want to get some of the newer expansions that have stuff that are more recent, like Game of Thrones or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot that they could do. But, I mean, that's also part of the charm, too,
yeah.
not knowing what they are.
Because you can pay attention to what everybody's saying.
Exactly. You create in-jokes, and you create meta themes throughout the game itself. Like, there was... Like, you might, like, run up to a door and actually, like shove up against it, right?
Yeah.
And, like, that you would know exactly what that is, depending on who you play.
Yeah.
Like, years down the road, even.
Yeah.
But, like, some new people are like, what are you doing, right?
So let reiterate. First round, you can give as many clues as you want, but you can't pass. Second round, you can only give one-word clues, but you can pass. In third round, it's charades in essence.
Yes.
So my thing about with Time's Up, I hate charades. I hate miming stuff.
Right.
That is my favorite part of this game.
Right. That's one of the best parts too.
Yeah.
Did you play with the optional fourth round at all?
No. I've never played with the fourth round.
I've considered it. There was one group where Time's Up. I visited my family over in Tucson a while back.
Okay.
And a friend of mine came over and we played it, and she fell in love with that game. I mean, she had never heard of it before, and we played it. And just as I was explaining, she was like, "Okay, no, I'm in. All right, I see what this is doing. Yeah, 100%." And that's because we used to watch Whose Line Is It Anywhere?
Yep.
Yeah, back in the day. And I feel like, and I don't like acting at all. I don't like doing the charades part of it. This is the only game I make that exception for because it's just as fun.
Shenanigans. My favorite memory of this game is when we were playing it. You were showing me Time's Up at this time.
Yep.
And the card that we got was Hodor, and I ran to the door, and I literally held the door.
Yeah, right? It's so good. I think it should move on, hands down. You're right with art and production, and you're right with possibly replay value. Everything else is Time's Up.
Yeah.
Yep. Good deal.
All right.
So that means that we're going to semifinals. Daniel, would you like to tell us what percentage of votes?
All right, let's go over here real quick. Give it a little refresh. So our first game that was eliminated was Galaxy Trucker, which is sitting at 23% votes, and it's our leading candidate at the moment.
Wow.
Next up was Dungeon Pets, which was eliminated. Dungeon Pets is actually the one we were talking about earlier, how high of a vote getter it's sitting at 16%.
Yeah, it was at 19. Though.
Yeah, we've had more votes because originally we had 26, now we have 30.
Yep.
Galaxy Trucker has not moved when we got 4 more votes. Next up was Sheriff of Nottingham being eliminated, and it is sitting at 10% of the vote.
Okay. Approximately 3.
Yeah, and finally, Smash Up was eliminated, and it is sitting at 13% of the votes.
Oof.
So some of our high vote getters have been eliminated.
Yeah, but I think we're going to be mainly debating the lower vote getters as of right now.
All right, so let me just finish and clean this up over here.
Go ahead and clean all you need to do. Rub-a-dub-dub.
All right,
3 men in a tub. I don't know the
gone.
rest of that saying, but it's really weird.
All right, boom. And so our next lineup is going to be our number 1 seed Dixit going up against our 7 seed Vikings Gone Wild.
All right. This is such an odd debate. 2 very different games. Are we starting us off this time around?
You get Vikings Gone Wild.
Okay, so everything as you said before, of course, there is more of a game here. And that's saying, like, I get what you're saying about how Dixit opened the path to, like, all these other games that work really well for that. But that means that it's been replaced by all of those games before.
Oh, we're not arguing those games.
You're right, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's a moot point, right?
Yeah.
Vikings Gone Wild is a deck builder, true and true, but it does a few things that are different. The resource management, the way you build the buildings, the way you attack your opponents, those are all really different ways of approaching a deck builder. So I do genuinely like it. Vikings Gone Wild, I have gotten rid of my previous version. I used to own it. But let's talk as far as, if we were to break this down, art production and ease of play goes to Dixit, of course.
Yeah.
But meaningful choice definitely goes to Vikings Gone Wild. And I don't know about replay value or game immersion.
Dixit has a lot of expansions.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just hate to say it. Like, it's hard for me to argue for Vikings Gone Wild. It's humorous, yeah, because of the app, and it's funny how it works.
Yeah.
And it's a funny premise, but really, when it's all said and done, there's a reason it's not a Spiel winner.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's not...
honestly,
we wouldn't have even thought of this if we.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. This was when I was like, okay, this is our number 7.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny. I really enjoyed it, but honestly, I think Dixit should move on. I think it wins ease of play hands down. Game immersion, just because of memorable moments in the table talk and the player interaction stuff, that's gonna both of them really fit humor in a sense. Art and production, I still think Dixit gets that.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think Dixit is moving on.
Pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, cool. Dixit moves on. All right, and our next category of our semifinals is Time's Up versus Cash and Guns. This is the hard one that we're going to have to debate. Daniel, you'll be starting us off, thank goodness.
All right, let's just move that out of the way. This way,
and Wayne Cook, he does have a lot of games. This is his studio that we are filming in today.
I get Time's Up.
Time's Up. All right, sounds good.
So this is probably for me the hardest bracket.
Yes, out of like most of our debates.
Out of all the debates, because I really love these games.
Yes.
For me personally, Time's Up is my favorite out of these two because Cash and Guns was the go-to party game. Time's Up is now my go-to party game. And it's just because of the shenanigans, the stuff that you have so much hilarity in it when you're like mentioning the Hodor issue from last time when I actually ran and held a door and you immediately got it. Mind you, that was in the height of Game of Thrones.
Right.
But I have memories of playing this at one of my birthday parties when there was a big group of us at my old place, and we were having a great time playing this one. There was like 15 of us, I think, in that one. You remember it at my old place when we were like over that long table?
Yep.
Having a black, and you actually owned it. I didn't even own my copy yet. You brought that one.
Yet.
And then I played it more recently, about a year or two ago. Well, maybe a year ago, in like 2001, for one of our birthdays. And I remember we got the B-52's Love Shack and having to try to mime that one. So, yeah. No,
all kinds of awkward.
All kinds of awkward. But, yeah, it was a phenomenal time. It has quite a few expansions. Time's Up. The main one you can get nowadays is Title Recall, but you can still get stuff from the original Time's Up. There's probably like a 90s expansion. There's a plethora of choices. I think it's not the easier one to play, but it's up there. Cash and Guns is pretty simple.
It is pretty simple.
I think the expansions, there's more. The minimum number of plays for the full experience, you have to go through a lot of cards. I haven't even seen everything that's in my box. And the game immersion, when it comes to memorable moments, this is one that's going to be tough for me because I know Art Production is going to Cash and Guns. It just
right.
Yeah,
yes,
that's Time's Up's weakest category. So this is going to you and see what you say.
All right. So yeah, I'll be arguing for Cash and Guns. Yes, I do agree that Art and Production goes to Cash and Guns.
Oh, yeah.
There's another one I think that Cash and Guns should get as well, and that is replay value. Now, I know you said that you haven't played everything in the box, but there's a lot of characters in base Cash and Guns. There are quite a few expansions. Not nearly as much. Yeah, no, there's more.
We don't count promos.
No, I think there's more than that.
I can look it up right now.
Yeah, we will. But what I'm saying, though, is that what really tips it over the scale, though, is the scaling. Because, yes, Time's Up, it can hold quite a few people. If I think of a lot of people, but it's going to take a really long time to get team after team after team after team.
Especially the first round.
Especially the first round. Now, granted, the next two rounds are a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Whereas, no matter how many people are playing in Cash and Guns, up to the 8 players, it doesn't matter. And then game is going to be only like 6 rounds.
The expansion adds
more players.
Like up to 8 players, right?
Yep.
All right, where is expansions here?
Okay.
So I'm just trying to see how many expansions it actually has.
Yeah, well, while you're doing that, that is a category I think, and I think there is more meaningful choice in this. Yes, Time's Up, it's not choices. You're just given a card, you're trying to either act. Your choice is whether to skip it or not.
Yeah.
But using the pre-existing metagaming of it, that's what makes it so humorous. Game immersion, it's hard not to say that Cash and Guns doesn't have that, because holding a foam gun, who hasn't done finger guns to like their friends before? It's like, playing as a child, you're constantly doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're acting like you're in this warfare in the mafia, splitting up the loot. It's like, well, I got all this loot. Well, too bad. Now I do.
There it is.
There's a lot that Cash and Guns has going for it. I think we're gonna have to do a pretty deep breakdown just to make sure.
There's one expansion.
Team Spirit, okay.
And the rest there's 2 expansions.
Cash and Guns, yeah, more Cash and Guns. Okay, so
2 expansions, yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad, but
I'm not saying, but I was telling you, there's only 2 expansions, mainly just promos.
Right, but it's the scaling.
Yeah, the scaling
does it. Yeah, because no matter what, it's only 6 rounds. Really cheap.
All right, you said you want to do a breakdown.
Wayne Cook, I'm not sure what TM stands for.
Terraforming Mars.
Terraforming Mars. Gotcha. Thank you. So let's do a breakdown. Which one is easier?
Cash and Guns.
I'm not sure about that though, because simplicity and familiarity with the mechanism. Everyone knows what charades is.
Yeah, well,
charades is a common term.
You don't even get to the charades till the 3rd round. The first round.
Well, the first one is Password. That was a game show.
Yeah.
For the longest time, right? However,
likelihood to get to the table.
Cash and Guns, and then prone to analysis paralysis.
I think Time's Up has more analysis paralysis just for the simple fact if you
draw
run
a
into
card, you go bad.
when you run into something that you can't think of.
Right, exactly. I agree. So ease of play goes to Cash and Guns.
Cash and Guns.
Okay, fair enough. Replay value, Cash and Guns.
Length of time is scaling well. I'll give you that.
Yep.
Minimum number of plays for the full experience. I think that goes the Time's Up.
Okay.
In expandability, that goes the Time's Up. So replay value goes the Time's Up.
Fair enough. Meaningful choice, Cash and Guns. Okay.
Game immersion. We'll come back to that one.
Okay.
Because art and production is Cash and Guns.
Yeah. Game immersion, I was going to say Cash and Guns anyway.
Yeah.
So, Cash and Guns moves on.
All right. So, moving on.
I will say I've had more memorable moments on Time's Up.
No, I don't disagree with you.
Like my father-in-law doing the butt talking from Ace Ventura. Wow. Hilarious.
For my memorable moment, I mentioned Love Shack.
Yeah.
Someone humping the air.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course they did. All right, and our final round. Let's talk about what percentages are 2 eliminated, which were Time's Up and Vikings Gone Wild.
Vikings Got Wild, 0%. Not
Flat
any
out.
love. Mind you, I think it's one of those games we've talked about before where it came out and then disappeared.
Yeah.
And this was Lucky Duck, if I remember correctly.
It was.
And then the last one was Time's Up, and Time's Up had 6% of the votes.
Which is approximately 6 of the vote. No, it's 2 votes. Something like that.
Yeah. I can do a little refresh and we can see if it changes any, but I don't think it does.
No.
Nope.
All right, cool.
Well, we have 31 votes now.
Aha.
Aha.
All right, Galaxy Trucker jumped up a bit. That's why.
Yeah. Actually, no, it dropped.
Did it now?
It was at 22. It's now 20, or it's at 22 now. It was originally 23.
Interesting.
Yep.
The plot thickens.
All right, so let's move on to our final round, which is our number 1 seed Dixit going up against our number 6 seed Cash and Guns.
Now, here's the thing with our final round. As viewers, longtime viewers will know, we do not take a side on this. We simply argue for each of the 5 categories which one we feel definitely brings on. I think this probably won't take us too long.
No.
Pretty straightforward. Ease of play. Dixit. Yes.
Replay value. Dixit.
It definitely has expandabilities. Minimum length of time, though, takes longer.
Yeah, I'm not giving Cash and Guns the length of time, but the minimum number plays the full experience.
I mean, you know exactly how to play after the first round. You're not doing anything different.
Well, we'll come back to replay value. Meaningful choice.
Cash
and Guns.
Yep, okay.
Art and production.
Cash and Guns.
The art is great in Dixit. I will say that. And as much as I like John Kovalich's art in Cash and Guns,
right.
the art wins in
Dixit.
Yeah.
Right.
Pieces of components, though, go to Cash and Guns.
So graphic design.
Design.
I think that would... That's tricky because Dixit does not need graphic design.
No, it does not. And it just has a scoring track. That's all the graphic design it has.
Right. And it works really well for that. It's colorblind friendly because it doesn't matter. Ooh, that's tough.
I'm okay with calling this one a wash. Because they both win one piece and they don't win graphic design.
Yeah, because graphic design is very much straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. Call it a wash.
Art and production is actually a wash.
That's rare. Unless when we argue for artists.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wash.
All right, so moving on, we have game immersion and replay value.
Game immersion, Cash and Guns. Yes.
So, going back to replay value. Now, we're going to have to break this down point by point. Length of time and scaling well, that goes to Cash and Guns.
Yes, agreed. Because
expandability.
It's a short enough game, and it can play up to 8 players consistently. Dixit, I think, is 6 max.
Yeah, I think
Something
so.
like that.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't scale. Like you add on not many more turns per player.
Expandability, that sticks it.
Yeah.
So we're down to minimum number of plays for the full experience. You pretty much know how to play Cash and Guns the first time you're playing through, and the only difference is the player powers.
Right.
So are we counting, if I'm only playing this player power, do I need to play the other, 6 or 7 in the box before I get the full experience? Or because I saw someone else play that character, I already kind of know how they work?
Right. No, you already know how to play it by the end of the first game.
Yeah. Same thing with Dixit.
You already know how to play it by the end of the first turn.
That is true. That is true.
I'm just saying that I think minimum number of plays for the full experience, because you're gonna have what makes a different experience is by playing with different people with different minds and different cards in Dixit.
Well, the same could be said about Cash and Guns.
Well,
because even in Cash and Guns,
the same regardless.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a new experience. It's if you play with the same players, it's ultimately you know who's gonna do what, you know who's gonna meta what. If you play with different players, you effectively know what's going to happen. I would almost call that for Dixit. Just because I do feel minimum number of plays for the full experience because of how much art there is.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's Dixit.
All right, I'll agree with you. And now we have a tiebreaker.
All right.
It's 2 votes Dixit, 2 votes Cash and Guns. Dixit wins ease of play and replay value, and Cash and Guns wins meaningful choice and game immersion. Art production is a wash, so let's see. Let's do a little quick refresh and find out.
Out of the 31 votes between Dixit and Cash and Guns.
Cash and Guns is sitting at 3%. Dixit is sitting at 16%.
Therefore, Dixit wins.
I think that hurt you a little.
A little bit. But it is a Spiel winner, so I can justify it on that fact.
Yeah, no, it won the Spiel for a reason.
Yep.
Now, do I think Dixit is the best game out of this group? In fact, I think it's for me personally, it's probably like the 8 or 7 seed for me.
Right. And I think this is one of the least humorous games, but I can see the humor in it.
Yeah. However, out of the 8 games, which one's your actual favorite game?
Out of these, probably Time's Up.
I have to agree with you. Time's Up is probably my favorite as well.
Then probably Sheriff Nottingham, then Cash and Guns.
Sheriff at Nottingham is actually really low for me. I'm okay with it, but it's not one of my favorites. Cash and Guns is probably my number 2. Smash
At
Up.
least 5 of these games are in my bottom half.
Bottom half of games.
That's how less invested I was in these ones. I mean, humor, like, it's all subjective.
It's subjective,
But there's 3 games I feel. Time's Up, and Cash and Guns are the only ones that actively bring out laughing and humor at the table.
Yeah.
Compared to the other 8, or the other 5.
I would disagree in a sense. I don't like Sheriff of Nottingham all that much, so I don't really get a lot of humor out of this game.
You might like Dreadful Circus.
No, Trials by Charlie. Neither one of us have played that game.
Right.
We know what it does, but neither one of us played it. So, with that being said, thank you all for joining us. We're going to close out this episode.
All right. So, we definitely want to thank you for tuning in. If you ever want to join us on a live episode, like our friends Ithri and Illuminus, and also our first-time chatter, Wayne Cook, please join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames. Traditionally, we tend to film on Tuesdays, and then every time I say that, we tend to have an off week.
Yeah. And so you can also find all video re-uploads on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And if you ever want to contact us directly, you certainly can. For ideas for future episodes, if you want to enter in a future contest, or you just want to reach out and say hello, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as you can get in contact with us on our official Twitter account at EBG Podcast.
And Daniel, you haven't answered my question yet. I'm not going to close it out yet. Why can't a T-Rex take a selfie?
I'm not doing it. I will stop the recording before we finish the bit.
Why can't he?
Nope.
Say it with me.
No.
Because dinosaurs are extinct.
No.
So, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
I've been your host, Daniel. You might have a change next week.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day's a good day for board gaming, not puns.